welcome to this edition of Coffee with Graeme. I'm your host, Graeme Forsyth. Today we continue our MFHL season coverage for 2020-2021. As the league is on pause, we still are going to bring you guys guests from around the MFHL for the next 2 to 4 weeks here. We're on lockdown here in Manitoba on Code Red, the restricted levels, so it's a tough time, but we're going to try to get through it together. But that brings me to my first thing that I got wrong in last week's episode was the number of games that were postponed. At the time of last week's episode when it aired, I said that 13 games were postponed. That was wrong. There were 21 games postponed at the time. There's going to be more games postponed now that we are in lockdown for the next 2 to 4 weeks. Hopefully we can get back to play very soon here. But another thing that I got wrong in last week's episode was I said that last season was the Avs' best season in franchise history. I said that it was their best season last year, but in fact it wasn't. That was back in 2017-18. And another thing that I got wrong was our standings graphic. I had the Winnipeg Ice with 7 points instead of 8. They are in fact with 8 points right now. They are in a tie for second place with the Yellowhead Chiefs in terms of points with 8. And we're going to show you guys the graphic right now. And it's sponsored by Pure Nata Natural Beauty, made in Canada. And my first guest of today's show is Tatiana Rafter. Tatiana is the head coach of the Interlake Lightning in the MFHL, and Tatiana has had a storied playing career. She started that career off in 2010, where she played with the University of British Columbia. She played there until 2015, and while she was there in 2014, she won Canada West Player of the Year. After she was done in UBC, she transitioned into playing in the National Women's Hockey League, where she spent her first season with the Buffalo Beauts and then her last 2 seasons with the New York Riveteers. In 2017-18, they transitioned into the Metropolitan Riveteers, and after that she ended up moving to Russia to continue her playing career, and then she moved on to the European Hockey League, where she spent her first 6 games of that season playing, and then she ended up becoming a head coach, and it's led her all the way back to here, to this time now, where she's the head coach of the Interlake Lightning. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming in Tatiana Rafter, head coach of the Interlake Lightning, on this edition of Coffee with Graeme, our MFHL season coverage. And Graeme Forsyth back on the network with Tatiana Rafter, head coach, first-year head coach of the Interlake Lightning for this 2020-2021 season. Tatiana joining me, and yesterday apparently was her due date for her first child, so congratulations to her on about to having a first child. I mean, it's an exciting time for her. I mean, it's a difficult time as well, as we're all in code red after the government of Manitoba, the province, made the announcement today that we're all going into code red. So it's not just the Winnipeg Health region now, it's all of Manitoba. But Tatiana joins me today on this Tuesday evening. Tatiana, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Happy to talk about the league and the girls and all the crazy pandemicness going on. Yeah. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to start off with your playing career and just looking back on it. I mean, you've been everywhere. You played at the university level. You played in the National Women's Hockey League in the U.S., where you traveled to New York for about 3 seasons, and then you ended up going to Russia, and then you ended up going to the European Women's Hockey League as well, and you ended up being a coach there, transitioning to that. But just looking back on your playing career, I mean, so many achievements. Is there a favorite moment that you had throughout your playing career, or is there too many to count?
I think like my favorite times were just meeting new people everywhere that I went. I had such a great time post-college, and hockey kind of allowed me to grow up. I really changed through my first year university all the way through to my 5th, and just mentally just matured through playing hockey. So I think just my favorite moments were maybe the toughest ones, or when things didn't go that well, because it allowed me to grow as a person and a player. So I'm just really thankful for all the people along the way in my career. Might have not been an answer I would have given when I was younger. But I just think just being in the team environment gets you from thinking about yourself and individual and growing into what's the bigger picture here. And so I'm just, again, super grateful and thankful for all the people. So I would just say those are kind of my favorite memories, are just with teammates. Or the Canada West Championship was really special for our program at UBC. That was a great moment. Championships are always good highlights, right? Because you're just bonded with your teammates. But through my career at UBC, we did face a lot of adversity all the way through trying to build a program. When I got there, it was unranked. And when I left, they were nationally ranked. And just everything and the commitment, things that have to go into it. A coach that you can buy into. Graeme Thomas was just vital, a cornerstone for us coming in my third season, and truly allowed us to believe in ourselves too. So I just learned a lot. But those were probably the highlights: winning the Canada West banner, going to nationals for the first time in program history. And then that was just wild. And then you couldn't even imagine that, because my first season we won a couple games, second season a couple games, and then we literally won our league and went to nationals in the third year. So that's pretty incredible. That transformation was really fun to be a part of.
Yeah, and I mean, you've been everywhere basically in your career. I mean, just traveling to overseas, traveling to the US. I mean, playing for the University of BC, where you, like you said, I mean, you guys really were, like, for you starting off there, you were able to watch it grow and build that up, and then you had so many awards. I mean, one award in particular, actually, where you were named the Canada West Player of the Year back in 2014, and in that season, I mean, looking at your stats, you led all Canada West players in goals, assists, points, power play goals. You had 2 shorthanded goals. You led the league in that category, and game-winning goals as well. But was that kind of the turning point for the program, in your opinion, in that season, or did it start a bit earlier before that, where you guys really started to turn things around with the program?
Well, we had, like, from my second year to third year, we really didn't have that many changes in our roster, which is hard to believe. But on paper, we were pretty much the same the second year to third year. And the main thing was like our coaching change. And just through my first and second seasons, I think mentally I was just okay with where the program was at. And then just when Graeme came in, he kind of allowed us to set different expectations and parameters for the program, and just kind of believe in ourselves that we could do it. And just, I don't know if it was, it was definitely a lot to do with him, because I know we had a meeting, Graeme and I had a meeting, right after the training camp in my third year. And he told me that he was disappointed in me, and had heard things about me that he expected better. And I was like, oh my goodness, okay, haven't heard that in a while. Kind of just got a kick in the butt right away. Just he had really expectations of everyone and just saw so much more potential in every person. So I think he brought that out of everybody. We definitely wouldn't have had the results we did had he not nurtured us and grew us. But we also had a really good core of people coming in, like my teammate Sarah Casorso. She was just a stud on D. She just absolutely killed it. She really contributed a lot to the program as well, and very surprised she didn't end up playing Team Canada or to a camp or something. She was lighting it up as well. So there were many players that were cornerstones in turning things around. And even I saw the team I think a year ago when they were playing here in Manitoba, maybe even less, maybe last season. And I was just telling them, I did have these records and goal scoring records and stuff, guys, but I want you to beat them. I think you can beat those, because really I only excelled and hit certain things from my third year on. like kind of
Yeah.
when I got that fire lit under me and there's going to be somebody come in and break all those records. I'm confident of it and I want to see that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just excited to see where the program goes from here. But I
Yeah.
don't even remember what your question was. Just going. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, for sure. I mean, reminiscing about the great times for sure. I mean, you get lost in the questions a bit for sure when you do that. But yeah, the question was just about just the award you won that season with being named Canada West Player of the Year. I mean, like you said, I mean, getting that pep talk from Graeme, I mean, I'm sure that kind of lit a fire under you and kind of put things into perspective. And then it allowed you to have the season you had that year.
Yeah, and they're also Haley Wickenheiser was playing in the league the
Yeah.
third year for UFC,
Yeah.
and she had won, or might have even been my first year she started playing there. But I just remember thinking after playing against her for a while, you know, what is the difference between like me and Haley Wickenheiser? Seems like a weird thing to think about, but you
Yeah.
always compare yourself to your idols and things like, what are they doing? What should I be doing? And she just always was working out even after the games. Like we would play her and then she would be running up doing stair workouts in the stands. So you just saw this kind of extra level that she had. And I never played with anyone that had that just extra tenacity or just on a different level. And I just kind of always to myself thought, you know, what would she be doing in this off season? My third year in the off season, I stayed in Vancouver and I just trained. I worked out harder than I ever had. And I just had a mindset, you know, I think there was also a couple things like that happened. We had a team banquet and there was some award that maybe a top forward award. So I really can't remember, but I didn't get it. In that season, it went to one of my teammates, Rebecca Unruh, who had an unreal season.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about it and I was like, you know, maybe I could have got it, maybe not. But do you ever want something to be a coin toss or do you want to be known for almost give people no choice? Like it has to go to you. You just absolutely killed it. And so I just really shifted my mindset. And there were so many things that happened over the course of that third year, a lot to do with Graeme and a lot to do with just like trying to push yourself and learning from watching how she was playing and how she prepared, like Haley Wickenheiser was doing things.
Yeah.
And I just absorbed it all and tried to do it and might have seemed really strange to other people because even my third year to my fourth year were so different. And a lot of that I would just attribute to mindset, believing in myself, and also having people that were pushing me. Like it was coming from all angles. I went through a lot of growth in that third year.
Yeah, and for sure. I mean, just those experiences, like you said, just learning to push yourself, finding that next gear, getting that pep talk from Graeme. And I was gonna say, like you played against players like Haley Wickenheiser back then, which is unreal because she's a Canadian female hockey legend. But how surreal is that looking back, knowing that you played against players like that at that time?
Haley Wickenheiser, when I was a freshman, I was standing on the blue line looking at her. I think I was starting in that game. She was starting. And I just looked at her neck and I thought, that's not even how big my quads are. Okay, like I was really intimidated.
Yeah,
There were a couple of face-offs through our times together where because she was a center, I was center, and she completely, it was in our end and she just pushed it forward through me. I used to take
yeah,
face off like wide feet, and she just went around me, took a shot on net, like right off the draw, kind of. So when you are playing against people that are, you know, have been playing the game for
yeah,
already 10 more
yeah,
years than you and have this experience, you just learn those things when you're playing against them, and it keeps you on your toes. So they were always doing things like that. So then you're like, okay, I really got to tie up on my face-offs on
yeah,
another level. And Gavrilova was playing there, the Russian Olympian. They had a pretty stacked team. And looking back on it, I do think it is a bit surreal because when we played UFC in the finals, we took them, like, they won the first game, we won the second game, and then we won the third game. So we won the championship. And they had already made a cake, like a championship cake, for that second game. And we had seen a photo of it. They had deleted it, but we all saw it.
Yeah.
Before it was taken down, and we had so much, I guess, motivation to win after seeing that. So it was a really fun series, and just hard to believe, like, a team that was just so stacked. It truly was kind of a Cinderella season for UBC, and so much good has come from it. Like, what an amazing program to go and play for now. So I think it's just snowballed into all these positive things from there. So that season is really important, not just to me, but to the UBC program and everyone going there. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, your experiences there, the way that program really grew throughout those years you played there, gave you a chance to continue your playing career at the National Women's Hockey League level, where you traveled to New York. You played a season with the Buffalo Buttes. You played 2 seasons with the New York Riveteers, and then they became the Metropolitan Riveteers in 2017-18. But just what was it like? I mean, you traveled to BC to play your years in hockey at the University of BC, but then traveling to the States, I mean, what was that experience like in those 3 years, getting to really grow even more as a person?
Well, it sounds like it was all perfectly laid out. It was not. It was really just season to season. And it's actually kind of a stressful process, I think, for females wanting to continue their career. I mean, at the time, there was the CWHL as well, so you could stay in Canada. Still, there's no team in Manitoba, so I would have had to move to Calgary or something like that to play in Canada still. So you have to move. So that's kind of the first thing. You've got to get comfortable with moving. Also, being resourceful. How are you going to make ends meet while you're going? A lot of the visas that I had when I went to the States, I couldn't work. So you were only getting your salary, whatever you were paid. So there were definitely roadblocks and challenges. My passion to play was stronger than those. And it's kind of sad to look back on the things that I did to be able to keep playing. At times, I'm eating Ichiban noodles and it's just crazy, like the things I was doing just to make ends meet. And live in New York that second season is pretty crazy, but you kind of find ways to make things work. I networked and was lucky enough to live with a family in my third season. I wouldn't have been able to play 3 years had they not taken me in. The Avery family, very special to me in New Jersey. That year was a lot of fun, and it could have been totally crushing. So that was great. And then Buffalo was a great year. I lived with 4 of my teammates that first season. Getting there was a process as well, because it was a brand new league. And I remember I got this email and I thought, this is a joke. Like, this isn't actually happening. And it said that there was a women's professional league starting in New York, and an invitation to try out. So what they had done that first year is just all the graduating players, they kind of messaged university coaches in Canada and the States and said, hey, are any of your grads able to play kind of at this Olympic level, or you think they could try and make it? Send us those names. And so my coach forwarded on my name. And then I got this email that I was like, what? I'm going to go try out for this. And then I'm getting paid to play hockey this year, because the CWHL was not paying salaries at that time. And I thought, well, why not try this anyways. Sorry, my iPad's going to die. I'm just going to plug it in here.
Yeah, what we're gonna do, I'm noticing the time here. We're gonna go to break real quick. We're gonna take about a 10-second break here before we continue. I'm joined by head coach of the Interlake Lightning, Tatiana Rafter, here on this edition of Coffee with Graeme, our Week 6 MFHL coverage. We'll be back in just a moment, but first we're gonna hear from our lovely sponsors here that have decided to sponsor today's edition of Coffee with Graeme, our MFHL 2020-2021 season coverage. Graeme Forsyth back here with Tatiana Rafter, head coach of the Interlake Lightning for 2020-2021, joining me on the network today. And Tatiana was reminiscing about her playing career so far in this interview, and we're going to talk about that a bit more. Then we're going to transition to her season coaching with Interlake and what it's been like so far. So you played 3 seasons in the NWHL, then you ended up going to Russia in 2018-19. I'm not going to even pronounce the name here because I don't want to butcher the name, but you traveled to Russia, and just talking about before how you've always had that drive to continue playing, and you said like you had to make ends meet playing in the NWHL. You really had to battle through and find ways to really stay afloat there, but just traveling to Russia to play, to continue your career, would you say that your drive and motivation to keep playing was a big reason why you continued playing and going to Russia?
Well, I don't think I financially could have done another year in the NWHL or move and play in the CWHL. It just wouldn't have panned out that way. So Russia really came to me. I was rolling out in the UBC locker room. They've always treated their alumni just amazing. Whenever you're back, and whenever I was there, they would just let me keep my gear there and skate. I would do the men's drop-in skates there and stuff. So I was rolling out in the locker room, and Graeme came in, and this opportunity did not come to me. So again, Graeme coming into the mix, he asked me, what are you going to do this year? I was like, well, I don't know. I'm serving at Earl's. I'm just saving up right now. And then maybe I'll go play in Calgary for the Inferno, or I don't know.
Yeah.
So they had mentioned to me they might draft me, but I just wasn't sure if I would. So if they were going to draft me, it's probably going to be like in a really late round, type thing. And so that was kind of what I was looking at doing. And then he said, I've been talking to somebody in Russia, and maybe you want to connect with them. This is kind of what they're looking to pay imports for the salary. This is the deal. So he kind of explained to me a little bit. And then I started talking to them, and they spoke English and Russian. And then I thought, well, I can't go on my own if I go. So maybe I'll try to get one of my teammates from the NWHL to come with me. So then I ended up recruiting Haley Williams to come with me. Played with her in Buffalo. She's from Chicago. And then, she came out with me, and she actually played another year out there. She loved it. So she played one more year. And then our team, SK Gorny, they folded this year. So she's actually playing in Budapest. So she stayed out there and just loves it. But I think that's kind of how that came about. And it was pretty crazy applying for that visa, getting over there, everything. And we lived in Northern Ukta for the first 2 months. And then we knew that after that, we were moving to St. Petersburg the rest of the year. So we're like a lot higher than Winnipeg is, longitude wise, latitude as well, I guess. And so it's pretty cold there. It was already winter when we got there in August.
Wow.
So it was
That's crazy.
I just had winter for a straight year, pretty much. But it was awesome. So we played really northern town there. Nobody spoke English at all when we were in Ukta. So started to learn Russian and could understand the board and started to learn all the hockey terms and that in UKTA. So maybe it was really helpful. There was no English there at first. So you could kind of follow practice and stuff. But so many things are different about Russian practices and everything. Sometimes you're just like, okay, I'll go at the back and just watch. But yeah, that was a interesting 2 months. And then, well, actually 3 months. I think we ended up extending 3 months. Then we moved to St. Petersburg and our team was based out of there and we played all over Russia. It was a really awesome experience. I even was really lucky to go to the men's all-star event and some of that. And my team had a game at like the same time as some of the events. So they were pretty much telling me, you have to fly back or we're firing you from plane. So I had to like leave that. I did half the all-star stuff and then I went and took, I so much travel and it was like the worst game ever. I was dying because it was just so much travel. And I think we lost that game that I came back for anyways. So it was crazy, but yeah, didn't get fired. But so it was pretty crazy all the time. I got threatened to get fired many times while I was out there. And then at the end of the season, kind of what put me into coaching is, one of the main reasons I went to Russia, I really wanted to like try to just really improve as much as I could out there. I could just focus on training and working out. And that was my full-time job. So I was just focusing on saving training and possibly come back to Canada and play in the CWHL and just try to like grind my way on to get invited to an Olympic camp. In my head, that's what I wanted to do. And then the CWHL folded while I was out there. And then I got injured from overtraining. I snapped my rector abdominis muscle. So I like couldn't even walk barely at the end of it because rest was not highly encouraged over there. So it just kind of got worse and worse. And then once we were done with the season, I just said, okay, I'm not doing these postseason practices anymore. I can't pivot to the right. Like, I don't know what's going on with my hip here. So just kind of stayed an extra 2 months, did all the cultural things I could, went to most of the team things that I could do, and then came back and just thought, well, I'm probably going to retire now because this would be really hard to rehab this, get back into shape and get into a season. And just was 26 at the time. And it was like, this is maybe a good time to just call it and transition. So I started looking into other opportunities with coaching, and I had met people overseas and just been networking and things. And the Danish team needed another coach for this year. So I ended up going out to Denmark. When I went out to Denmark, I had just started being able to walk around. So I wasn't even running and working out, any of that. I had been just laying in a bed for almost 4 months, like 3.5 months in Winnipeg. I was just home and injured and starting to get healthy, and really probably wasn't ready to be coaching because I was just grieving. Like, I put in all this effort, all this time into playing hockey, and now it's just over. And just so many uncontrollables like put it to an end. The CWHL folding, my injury, just the timing, and just how financially hard it is to kind of train and do that if you're not an Olympic carded athlete. It was just like, it's impossible to do this. And then I think going and pushing myself into that coaching role was the best thing for me mentally. I was really down, really depressed, and just was lost, lost. And maybe I'm still a little lost now, but I feel a little more focused and looking at other things and not depressed anymore or anything. So that's good. And it just forces you when you're coaching to think about, okay, well, you're not worried about really your own performance at all. You're like, how do I get these 22 girls? And what can I do for them? How can I best serve them this season? So it was really like an overload over there. at first you'd get home and just be like, oh, I can't even sleep. My brain, it's so much to think about. But then you just get used to it. And even my first practice that I ran with the girls, I almost just threw up while I was explaining the first drill. It was kind of nerve wracking, but then you
Just
just
the nerves, eh?
right?
Yeah.
It's like anything, it's just hard, and then you push
Yeah.
through it. And now, don't worry, I don't throw up drawing up any drills this year to the girls or anything. But yeah, the first time you do it is hard. So there's going to be growth in coaching, and I'm excited as a young coach. I'm just trying to learn as much as I can on the go and utilize my knowledge from the past and put it through a new lens, a new perspective now. So that's kind of where I went from Russia to Denmark to Winnipeg. Back to
Yeah, just kind of came back full circle. And yeah, I mean, obviously not to the extent of the pressure you were facing with trying to play and trying to keep your career going. But I remember, when I'm 19 now, but when I was 15, I not broke completely, but fractured about 3 ribs. And just, the rehab process, the recovery of an injury. I mean, any injury you have, the rehab process is always, it takes a toll on your mental state for sure. And it makes it, that much more rewarding when you're able to come back and when you're able to persevere. And it's nice to know that you found a place in coaching for sure. And now you're back here coaching a team in the MFHL, a league that is growing for sure. I mean, it sucks that this pandemic is here.
When I grew up, it didn't exist.
That's what's so great about the women's game, the female game here in Manitoba especially, is that it is growing and it's giving girls opportunities to really pursue these opportunities that, like you said, when you're growing up, it didn't exist, and now it's here, and now it gives them that extra opportunity to go to that university level or play somewhere else. So we're going to take one more commercial break here in this segment. We're going to come back with Tatiana and talk about her first year with Interlake as a head coach and what it's been like so far for her. But we're going to hear from our lovely sponsors here that have decided to sponsor today's edition of Coffee with Graeme, the MFHL 2020 season coverage for week 6 here. So we'll be right back with Tatiana in just a moment.
Making the world a better place is always a work in progress, because our idea of success is not an endpoint. It's a new milestone from which we can move forward. As industries rise and new technologies take shape, we're committed to keeping pace, to ensuring our innovations are shared and our journeys celebrated, even as we set our sights on where to go next. This is how we live, how we learn, how we grow. Red River College. What we're doing is working.
Back with Tatiana Rafter, head coach of the Interlake Lightning for 2020-2021 here, joining me on today's edition of MFHL season coverage for 2020-2021. And she's coming into this season with a year of coaching under her belt. She was a head coach for a team in the European Women's Hockey League. She came back here to Winnipeg, Manitoba to coach this team in the MFHL, this Interlake Lightning team. And for your team this season, you guys selected 9 rookies, so you're a fairly young team this year. 6 second-year players this season, and then you guys also got 4 third-year players, so 4 seniors for you guys this season. But was that kind of the hand you were dealt this year with having to kind of build with these young rookies instead of like having all these seniors at your disposal to pick from? Is that just the way it went with the tryout process?
Well, the trial process was a learning experience in itself with Interlake, how the borders are set up. They're kind of at a disadvantage to begin with because they only have certain numbers to pick from. For example, the city just has an abundance of players that they pick at their tryouts. So the city kind of runs their tryouts, like the ice, the Abros type thing. And then those cuts, when they're released, like at Interlake, they kind of rely on imports to fill a couple spots at least. Like in the past, it's been anywhere from like 3 to 8 imports needed. But why I was brought in to the program was to try to rebuild it in a way that we're getting girls from the Interlake region into the program, experience what AAA hockey is like, and bring them up. and develop them. So this year is really focused on development. We kept a big roster. We have 20 girls, got 2 goalies, 18 skaters. And next season, we're looking to just carry a smaller roster and a stronger roster, as strong as we can. But there are things that come into play. It's almost year to year with Interlake because, for example, we could pick some imports that are really doing great and they develop great, and they could be from another region that they were cut from, and then we could lose them the next year unless they're going into their senior year or something like that. There's different rules like that. So I'm not sure how to get around those obstacles and barriers. Those will just kind of be there and you don't know. So you can plan as much as you want. And then we'll just have to see where the chips fall next year in some aspects. But we do have a really young team, and it's awesome because they have so much potential, the girls that we have. And every day I just feel like they're learning and they're sponges, because when I just even show them one thing, like a little tweak that they can throw into the game in practices, we're doing that, and then it comes through in the games. And so I have me and the coaches that I'm working with, we've just approached the season with, I guess, just patience. We just have patience. We really are not putting any emphasis on wins or losses. It's going to come, and you can see it every game. They're improving, and even like conditioning wise, just learning what it takes. At the beginning of the year, we were just dying after the first period. Then the next week, it's the second period, the third period. So it's like, okay, we've got our conditioning down. We know what to do with that. And now just making tweaks. And a lot of it is development too. We have girls that have all different strengths and all different weaknesses and areas of improvement, and just focusing on the best ways to bring them up together. And it's just been a really fun process, getting to know all the girls and getting to know the league in general, because like I said, it didn't exist when I was growing up. And then so just learning all the little ins and outs of the league as well. A bit of a learning curve at the beginning, but then now have a really good idea of next year how you want to run things at the beginning of the season with this particular group, with this area, the community there, and the parents, and getting to know that too, because you want to coach people the way that is best for them too. I think also kids growing up now are a lot different. So you have to kind of approach things in a different way than when I was playing. It was a bit more old school coaching when I was younger. It's definitely adapted to a more modern style and that. So overall really interesting. Lots of learning, but learning quick, and just being there for the girls, helping them along the way, giving them the tools that they need to keep developing and succeeding. But really, I think we're looking at just building for next year and the season after that. So kind of in a build stage, and I think they're really, really going to jump out and shine next season. And this year, it's just, let's just do our best, guys, and see what happens. And I think, it sucks that we're not playing right now. Say we were playing games right now, I really thought, like, by December, by Christmas, they're really going to start coming into their own. And it's just been nice to see the shift mentally. I think they're really believing in themselves, and they're seeing the changes that we're making, and that the results that it's giving them in practices and on the ice, and helping them with their hockey IQ and things like that have been really beneficial. So it's just so exciting. It'll be a year of growth, development, and next year, I think, will be a year that they'll really surprise the league, and really excited to take them up. So
and like you said, I mean, like I stated before, like 9 rookies, so you got a young team this year. I mean, those second years, like out of those 6, you're probably going to be back next year with the culture that you're building up. About, like you said, it's about being patient with this group of young players too, and just looking at Interlake's track record. I mean, this has never been a strong team But if you're able to get those little victories this year with, like you said, the talent that you got coming up with the 9 rookies this season, them learning, and already like Christensen, I mean, you got your goaltender Halderson, who've been making a bit of noise in the league this season. Halderson especially winning that MFHL Goaltender of the Week award in week 1. So it's nice to see that she has that potential to win awards like that, especially in the season. But just talking about the little victories so far, like you said, just building the team up. I mean, you struggled at the start of the season, but in the last game before, the cancellation of the season came into play, you guys only lost 1-0 against a Central Plains team that looks pretty strong on paper so far this season. They're 2-1. They're looking like they're having a promising year so far. But I mean, those little victories, like you said, it brings the confidence a long way for sure when you're able to keep a team like that close, when you're a team like you guys are.
I just think that for them, it's just being positive, being patient, and having a good memory, I think, because, and what I mean by that is, for example, when we played Central Plains and we lost 1-0, I told them, remember how this feels, because they could have for sure won that game. And it just comes down to like really little things, like finishing, picking up sticks in front of the net, like just little things that we can correct and form habits with. And I think that builds their confidence, just knowing, okay, if we just learn and execute these things, it's in our control to do it. So that's kind of a shift too. And it's nice that they do know that it's achievable to keep improving, and it's achievable to potentially end up dominating. So that's a really awesome thing to just develop confidence. So I hope that we can do that for them the rest of the season through the pandemic and the many curveballs that are to come, I'm sure.
And just before we're going to end off right here, but before we do that, just the cancellation of the season for right now, hearing from the government that's going to last about 2 to 4 more weeks here. Hopefully it lasts only 2 weeks, but like we could be in this for a while. But just talking about the ways that you're keeping this team focused throughout this next period of time here with, I mean, the technology that's at the disposal of everyone now with Zoom calls. I'm sure that you've been finding ways to kind of emulate the stuff that you guys usually do in person to online.
I think a big thing right now is for them to work on their mental skills with motivation, because right now in the pandemic, I think when times are uncertain, it's really easy to just think, okay, just be very anxious, have stress about that. Take them kind of away from that, take away the unpredictability of things, and put in just a regular schedule that gets them focused and makes them focus on specific goals at this time. So, for example, actually tonight, our practices start at 6:30 on Zoom. So that'll be right after this. But today we're actually working on just identifying what are our roadblocks and how do we move past them. Things like that, just mental exercises, and also just telling them, the reasons why we have implemented these workouts on Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings at 6:30 is just to get them up, get them moving. And, some people are doing their schoolwork from home. They're not going to school. So then they're not active. And that is a big thing to do with mental health as well. Just getting up, getting going, moving, feeling good. The endorphins you get just from working out in general, like set aside the fact. Yeah, finishing hard, like keeping up our conditioning, don't lose what we started. So just continuing to build, continuing to get stronger together and mentally tougher. So we're working a lot on our mental game in addition to staying in shape. So we're trying to give them resources during our practices just to get them focused on motivation, creating schedules, and creating mini goals along the way of ways that they can better themselves right now and come out of this pandemic stronger instead of letting it overrun us and take over us. So that's kind of what we're doing.
Welcome back to the show. If you missed the first part of this episode, I just finished interviewing Tatiana Rafter, and now we're going to go into interviewing a player for the Central Plains Capitals. It's Danika Botterill, and Danika is in her second season as a Central Plains Capital. She had a great rookie season last year where she tallied 18 goals and 8 assists, good enough to give her 26 points in 39 games played with the Capitals. And this season, she's leading her team in goals and points. She has 3 goals, no assists, but that's good enough to make her the leader on her team in points. And it was great talking to Danika about what the season's been like for her so far this year, and we also talked about what the first season was like for her last year where she was a rookie on the Central Plains Capitals. Central Plains Capitals forward Danika Botterill joins me on this edition of Coffee with Graeme's MFHL season coverage for 2020-21. Danika's team so far this season looking pretty good, 2-1 so far through their first 3 games. Unfortunately, they don't get to improve upon that right now due to us going into code red, whole Manitoba going into code red now, so it's shutting down things for a bit longer than we'd hope. But Danika joining me on this Tuesday evening, pretty sure that she had a practice yesterday, so she has the week off until her next practice. But Danika, thank you so much for joining me on this edition of Coffee with Graeme. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to talk about your first 2 seasons with the Capitals. I mean, it was your rookie year last year. You're going into your second year this year, but where do you play before you were a Central Plains Capital?
I played here in Portage for the Portage Terriers the whole time before that.
Nice. And were you playing there? So you said you were playing there for the whole time before that?
Yeah, since I was 5.
Nice. So pretty good memories built up there, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Awesome. So just talking about the type of player you were back then to the player you were now, I'm assuming that, you found the style of game that you've liked throughout the seasons that you played with Portage up until playing with Central Plains. But did that change at all when you joined the Capitals?
Not really. More when I was playing with the Terriers, I played with boys, and I was more of a passing player. And I think as I came to Central Plains, they kind of want me to shoot more and take more shots and get chances to score.
Nice. So going into a new role, I mean, you said you were playing with boys before that, and then you transition into a role where you're playing obviously on a strictly female team. But I'm assuming that your confidence built up with those years with Portage.
Yes.
Nice. So just going into your first season last year with Central Plains, you guys, didn't fare so well out there with your results. You guys finished 7th in the league, but you guys gave the Winnipeg Ice a bit of a test in that first round of the playoffs last year. You ended up stealing the game, but I mean, just looking at your stats, you did become more of a goal scorer by looking at the stats. 39 games played last year in total with 18 goals, 8 assists. Just talking about how you adjusted to the AAA game last season.
Well, I tried. What do you mean?
Just adjusting to the game speed. I'm assuming talking about
it was different because from boys and then girls and then we weren't as good. So I just tried to have a funner year and not focus on trying to win every single game.
Nice. And how did you feel that you improved throughout last year?
I think I worked on my shooting and I tried to improve that as much as I could and tried to stay momentum and not get worse in the season.
Nice. And just, you have a lot of the same players returning this year. So you guys
Yes.
are a more mature team this year. I mean, you guys had a lot of those second year players that are coming into this year. But how do you feel that you bonded with that team last season, this group of girls that you're playing with now?
I think we had a really good season for that part. And this year we were expecting to have a better season because we all knew each other. The chemistry was really good, so we think we are going to have a better season.
And are you playing on the same line as you were last year, or have there been changes in the lineup?
My line is the same this year, but other lines have changed a little bit. Just trying to see the few new players where they would go and stuff.
So we're going to go to our first commercial break here. I'm here with Danika Botterill, second-year player of the Central Plains Capitals, and we're just going to hear from our lovely sponsors that have decided to sponsor today's edition of Coffee with Graeme. But yeah, I'll be right back with Danika Botterill on this edition of Coffee with Graeme, our MFHL season coverage. Stick with us.
At Super 8 Winnipeg West, we have your comfort in mind with free Wi-Fi and free daily Superstart breakfast. We also have guest laundry facilities, a state-of-the-art fitness center, and a jetted hot tub. Sleep well in a spacious guest room equipped with plush new bedding, a 50-inch flat-screen HD TV, microwave, mini refrigerator, and Keurig coffee maker. Or book a suite with a kitchen, ideal for extended stays. Super 8 Winnipeg West, located just inside the perimeter on Portage Avenue.
And a bit of a technical difficulty on my side seems to be happening pretty frequently. I don't know what's happening, but we got Danika Botterill back here on the show now, and we were talking about her first season with the Capitals so far, just gone a bit into depth into it. But now we're going to continue talking about that, and then we'll transition into the season that she's been having so far and her team's been having as a whole. So you were talking about how you were playing with the same group of players you were last season as this season so far, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So just talking about the chemistry you built with that line, the line mates you've been playing with, and just how you guys kind of clicked throughout the season went on.
Yeah, we're good off the ice, and now we take it on the ice, and we just feel like we know where each other are and our passes and stuff.
Nice. And your role on that line, I'm assuming, was being the goal scorer, putting that puck in the net.
Yeah.
Nice. So just, yeah, you talked about how it was, you expected to struggle a bit last year as a team because you were a younger team coming in, but
Yes.
how did you find your team, your group of players as a whole handled the struggles last year?
We try to always stay positive and say we can do it next game. Just keep pushing and try not to think about it all the time.
Nice. And just as a whole, as a team, what were some of the things that you found you guys improved on as the season went on last year?
I think we improved on playing more as a team because at the start we never played together, and we kind of were getting better at passing, just everything, playing as a unit.
And then just moving into the playoffs, you guys came in as the 7th ranked team. You played a Winnipeg Ice team that was most likely, they were heavily favored in that series, but you guys were able to keep it close in some of those games in that series, and you even stole one of those games. I believe it was that game 2 against them where you guys won 4-3.
Yeah, that was game 2. Yep.
Yeah, nice. So just what was the mentality going into that series, going against a team where, you got nothing to lose, going up against this heavily favored powerhouse like the Winnipeg Ice were last year, but what was the focus going into that series last year?
We were like, it's different than what happened in regular season, and we knew we could beat them, and we just had to play as hard as we could.
Just gotta take a sip of water there, but yeah, for sure. I mean, just that mentality of, it's a new season basically when playoffs come, and you guys had nothing to lose going in, and you guys knew that you could beat them, and obviously you did that in that one game. But just after that series, what was the message from your coaches to the girls in the dressing room?
When we lost, like after?
Yeah.
They said that next year if everybody comes back, we can have a good season, and we'll have more vets, and we could just have a totally different season and try and win more.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys do have more vets this season. I mean, looking at
Yes.
your roster, you have 5 third-year players coming in. You got 2 of those at D, 2 of those at forward, a goaltender as well as a third year, and you guys got loads of second-year players returning. I mean, 5 of those being forwards, 4 of those being defensemen, and you're one of those forwards. And then you guys also got some rookies too coming up, so a nice balance. You got 5 rookies as well, so a nice balance throughout. Do you find that it's been a good balance so far and just bonding with this new group of girls that have come up out of those 5 rookies?
Yes, they're a good change to the team because now we know what it's like to have rookies, that there's not 15 of them. So it's good to know what it's like to be a vet.
Yeah, so such a change from this year to last year where you had
Yes.
15 rookies, and now you're taking on a role where you are one of those vets. How's it been so far, kind of getting to know these rookies and maybe mentoring one of them?
Pretty good. I like how when they came, we were just like, welcome, and we just treated them like one of ours.
Nice. And how have you found it being kind of going into that role where you've been there before, you led the team in points last year, and you're one of those players where those young players are looking up to? How have you taken that mentorship role as of late?
Good. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So just talking about the experience that your team brings this season, you found that the year you had last year, the year to grow with all those 15 rookies last year. I mean, you guys are a more experienced team. You know what it's going to take this season to get to the next level and maybe challenge one of those top teams like the Winnipeg Avros, the Yellowhead Chiefs that have, the Avros have some experience coming back, but they're a bit of a younger team, and they're still a powerhouse in the league so far as they've shown. But just you know that you can challenge those teams with experience so far this season.
Yes.
Nice, nice. So just the first 3 games of the season, you guys started off with a loss against Yellowhead, and then you went out and you took down one of the teams that's established as the top teams as the Westman Wildcats throughout the past few years. But how have you found your team has performed this season? What have been the things that you've liked from your group so far?
This year I think we know we could do better, and we just keep trying to push harder and harder as we go throughout the game. We're like, third period's gonna be better. Everything, like, just keep going.
And just talking about your season so far, I mean, you're leading the team in goals. You got 3 goals, and you've stepped up big time in these games. What have you found has been a bit different in your game this season? Do you find that it's just come from the experience that you built up last year that you've been able to have a season like you have this year?
Yeah, and we have new coaches, and they're teaching us new things, like our assistant coach, so he could give me new pointers, and our old coach, so we have same things.
And just the way things have gone for your team this season. I mean, you're 2-1 so far. I mean, things have been looking pretty good for you guys. And even though you guys had a bit of a scare against Interlake, you guys were able to win that game with a score
Yeah.
of 1-0. But just getting those early season tests so far where there is a bit of a scare, I'm sure that that's built your confidence being able to beat teams like Interlake, knowing that we're able to come out with a win, even though it's one of the lesser talented teams. But I'm sure that's been great for your confidence so far.
Yeah, it has.
Nice, nice. So just talking about the pause so far, unfortunately, the league had to shut down for a bit because of COVID-19. The Winnipeg Health region was the first region to go into code red, and now all of Manitoba is in code red. And we're
Yeah.
not quite sure when the season is going to return. But how are you guys handling it as a group right now? Trying to stay in shape during this time and just handling doing stuff as a team without actually seeing the team.
Yeah, we've been texting a lot on our group chat, and we're gonna start doing Zoom meetings and have Zoom workouts, and try and everybody just stay in touch.
Nice. And what are you going to be doing throughout these next few weeks to stay in shape for you in specifics?
I'm gonna shoot on my deck, and my dad's gonna get a rink up, so I'll be skating on that and just do some workouts at home.
Nice. Well, that's going to do it for this interview. Thanks so much for coming on tonight. It was great getting to talk to you, and hopefully when the season returns, when we get set to play again, you guys can continue the season that you guys have already been having. I've been joined by Danika Botterill, second-year forward of the Central Plains Capitals, on this edition of Coffee with Graeme, our MFHL season coverage. And that's going to do it for this edition of Coffee with Graeme. It's been a great episode today. I had a chance to speak to two members from the MFHL. We're going to continue to bring you guests from all around the MFHL in the next few weeks here. And as always, on our MFHL coverage, we'll always be bringing you guys guests. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's episode. And we got some other great shows airing on the network tonight, starting at 7 p.m. with Theo Tekelec Show on the Ice. At 8 p.m., we got the Sask Sports Show with JD Hodden, and then our amateur sports coverage finishes this Thursday with Crunch Time at 9 p.m. It's pro sports coverage, so for all you pro sports fans, be sure to check out the latest edition of Crunch Time on Amateur Sports TV. You can catch it on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and wherever else you find our episodes, or simply visit our website at amateursportstv.com. So that's going to do it for this edition of today's edition of Coffee with Graeme. I've been your host, Graeme Forsyth. Remember to stay safe out there, stay social distance, and have a good one. I'll see you in the next one.